Hey guys, what's up? I'm Mark, and in this channel, I talk a little bit about lifestyle, but I mostly talk about business and investments. Today, we've got another Airbnb hosting video, and this video was actually suggested by one of you guys. You asked me about what are the things that you should consider when you are putting together your house rules for your Airbnb. You know, house rules might be taken for granted, but these guidelines can really help us host in really helping our place be a good financial and profitable success versus one that might be a disaster, one that may need a lot of repairs or additional costs that we just did not foresee. So this is what we'll look to cover in this video. How do you put together your house rules for your Airbnb? Let's find out. So I've put together here 5 notes or even steps that you may want to take in putting together your house rules as you get your Airbnb started, or perhaps your Airbnb is already running and there are a few things that you may want to tweak. So if you are a new host or even if you are an existing host, I think that you might find these 5 tips helpful to you. So number 1 here would be the most obvious starting point, aligning your own house rules with that of the building admin rules. So this is a good starting point because from here, you know that the building admin is already enforcing a few things. Some examples of this may be having quiet hours through the night, or perhaps your building altogether does not allow pets. So if these rules are already in your building, obviously you would have to align your own unit rules with that of the building admin. So first and foremost, you should also familiarize yourself with the house rules of the building itself. Let's move on to number 2. Perhaps the most important thing when you are putting together your house rules would be having a lookout for your place, how you are able to maintain it and keep it in clean and working order. So your rules should be designed in such a way that you are really promoting the well-being of your place and also balancing this with your own convenience. So it's very important to share with the guests the circumstance that they are getting into. I've shared in previous videos that I don't live in the same building as my Airbnb. You know, if a guest asks for extra towels, extra linen, extra blanket, have it in your house rules that any request would come at a cost. So perhaps you'd need them to cover the grab fee or perhaps even the fee for the actual item that is being brought to them. And since Airbnbs are in private residential condominiums, you may want to enforce the rule that only registered counted guests may enter. So this would veer you away from having unwanted guests or wearing out your couch, your tiles, or whatsoever. I guess another request that I often come across would be guests asking if they can do a Korean barbecue style in your condo. Of course, the problem there would be stinking up your place. Even before that, a lot of condominiums actually do not allow open fire or having a stove that is powered by gas. So to recall number 1, so some of these rules may already be in alignment with what the building is enforcing. Moving on to number 3, and perhaps this is the easiest, you can actually just look at house rules of other fellow hosts. You know, these house rules are usually very similar anyway. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can copy and paste house rules from other fellow hosts, but do keep in mind, only copy what may be relevant. Some house rules would obviously be only applicable to some properties of other Airbnb hosts. So let's say if you don't have a balcony there, don't put part of your house rules that you can't hang anything on the balcony, because in these instances, you are showing that you just copied your rules from elsewhere. And of course, that becomes a very frustrating experience for guests, for them to come across house rules that actually don't even apply. And on that note, let's move on to number 4. It's always tricky to balance what's good for the place, what's convenient for yourself, and what's also good for the guest. So one thing that you should keep in mind when putting these rules together would be putting rules that you can actually enforce or implement. I know you guys have been a guest as well, or maybe just being as plain citizens. Don't you hate it when there are rules that are just not enforceable anyway? So one thing I would keep in mind when putting these house rules together would be, don't put anything that you can't enforce anyway. And lastly, let's move on to number 5. You know, your house rules can actually change. So you may change this perhaps every month or even from guest to guest. I'm not saying that you have house rules that are too flexible or changing all the time, but my point is based on the feedback of guests. Your house rules are not set in stone. You can add to these or even subtract from them. I mean, this is your property, so you can actually tweak, refine. Some might need better tuning. So your house rules really is always going to be a work in progress. Feel free to, again, add or subtract from these, and always having in mind, again, the perfect balance between our own personal convenience as hosts. Second would be the actual property, the maintenance of the place itself. And third, of course, you don't want to have rules that are too stringent or too suffocating for a guest. Having a happy compromise in the middle of that would address these three pillars of Airbnb hosting. And just as a bonus tip, I know I've said before that guests don't even read. So what I actually do when guests book my place would be giving them my usual welcome message. And I always state this line: please let me know if you have any questions regarding our house rules and other listing details. From my welcome message, I want the guests to understand that there are going to be house rules in place, and it's just a matter of them really checking it out. Once they are closer to the check-in date, you may also want to reiterate you are on standby to answer any questions they may have regarding your house rules. Let me know in the comment section what are those house rules that you have a hard time enforcing, and let me know down below what are the other questions that you may have regarding Airbnb house rules. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, guys, and happy Airbnb hosting!